We are live. Welcome to Doing Bits Live with Eshaan Akbar and Vittorio Angelone.
What's
It's a
the
very special
crack?
day because it's happy birthday to you.
Shabba.
Happy birthday to you. Give me some more vibes. Happy birthday, dear Vittorio.
Skirt, skirt.
Happy birthday to you. Oh,
Hey. Happy birthday, young man.
Thank you very much.
if you heard that brilliant shabba there, that was our guest this evening, the brilliant Aurie Styla. How are you, my man?
I'm all right. I'm a bit hot and tired, but only from working, as you lot know, just been decorating. But other than that, I'm feeling good. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, good, man. It's great to have you on the show. And look, what a gift to Vittorio here
I
on
know.
his birthday. Eh?
Couldn't be a better birthday. I mean, it would be good if I was allowed outside, but this is the second best.
Is it rude to ask a boy or man his age? No, I don't think it is. How old are you?
Not when he's by far the youngest in the group chat.
Wait. Would you wait? Before you say a number, by far. Hold on.
I reckon
calm
he
down
is,
now.
you know.
But
Go on. What's the number?
24.
Oh,
Yeah, but don't
my.
say by far. That makes me and Eshaan feel old. By
That's
far.
You did
For
that
me,
yourself.
it's a decade.
Oh, yeah. It's 10 years, isn't it, Eshaan? Ooh.
For me, my. So would you have been in the same year as my brother then? My brother was September '94,
September. No, he would have been
year above.
maybe 2 years above.
Oh my god! I changed my
Wow.
brother's nappy. And this way, I'm doing a podcast with this guy.
That's very funny.
Jesus. Anyway, right. So, Doing Bits is the podcast where we invite some of our favorite comedians from across the globe to come and talk to us about stand-up, what they miss about it, and any thoughts, or as Vittorio says,
Wait, but you didn't do the what?
Oh.
You set that up so badly.
I'm sorry, really badly. Okay, where comedians from around the world come together and discuss the ideas that Vittorio says are.
Quarantined in our brains. That we've done this so many times,
Oh, God.
and we've
You
never.
wanted him to get that right so you could deliver that line.
This-
Perfect.
We
It's his
do it every
birthday.
time, twice a week, and that's the only time it's ever fun. On my birthday!
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, man. Do you know what? On your birthday, you deserve better. I'm really sorry. Yes, the ideas that are quarantined in our brain. And because these are ideas, sometimes they might be a bit underformed. They might not be completely ready. They might be a bit racist. They might be a bit sexist.
You know
Because
me,
that's
Aurie. You know me well enough. It's all right.
Yeah, me. Yeah.
what we do, we take an idea, think of the worst possible outcome, and then work back from that before we take it on stage. So anyway, we've got the amazing Aurie Stein. I mean, Aurie's portfolio goes well beyond stand-up. He's an absolute a legend in the game. Oreo.
Oreo. That takes you back to primary school.
Oh
Thank you,
boy,
Sean. Thank you.
bro. I wanted to say bro and Aurie, and it came up as Oreo anyway.
Oreo. Okay.
So Aurie, tell us, what do you miss about live stand-up?
Do you know what? It's the instant reaction on stage when you tell a joke, and the challenge of when you go on stage, you got one chance to get it right. Whereas on a podcast, let's be honest, if you're recording the podcast before you deliver it, you can edit bits that you don't want up there. And as much as that fine tunes your podcast, there's something really raw and authentic about going on stage, trying something once, and the pressure of you getting it wrong once. That it as much as it might be scary to some people, I find it really enjoyable when you do get it right. It's such like an achievement, and I feel whether it be a new joke or an old joke you might twist around or try a different way, I kind of miss getting on stage and just having that face-to-face interaction with audience members trying stuff once. If that makes sense.
How long have you been doing stand-up?
It's 10 years in March, just gone.
Right, so a decade in the game.
Wow.
Sorry,
Vittorio was in secondary school, not even done his
GCSEs, man. Yeah.
Wow, he was 14 when I started stand-up.
But you also do those amazing UK garage brunches as well, don't you?
Yeah, the UKG brunch. Me and there's a team of us on there. I'm one of the team members, and also the resident host. And we do that we used to be every 2 weeks on a Saturday, the first and the third. In summertime, which would be now, we'd be doing them every week, where it'd be one Saturday would be the regular space, and another one would be on a boat. mate.
Bruv, I
it's
saw your
lockdown.
videos in Dubai. I'm like, that is
In
popping
Dubai
off.
as well. Yeah, we bring. So we brought him over to Dubai. Whilst bringing him over to Dubai, I would also do comedy out there at the same time. We're missing so much right now because of this. So yeah, man. Thanks for asking me that, because now I feel it now. Even more. Dubai. But go on, sorry.
But that's the thing. That's one thing I've always really liked and admired about your performance, which is that the stand-up is one element. You are one of the best hosts in the game as a stand-up host, but also to host something like the UKG branch or your BBC Radio London show. They're all different skill sets. How did you hone that? How did you hone all the versatility?
It's kind of like, all right, if you're naturally fit,
just say I'm sick, innit?
I could say that, but I'm not gonna toot my own horn that way. Like, you know, if you, let's say you train at the gym and you're in a good space.
Sorry, what's a gym?
Eshaan, I know who I was talking to. Now. I'm talking about to the people that are watching. I know. All right, a gym is this place people go to keep fit. Yeah, Eshaan.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right, you know Arnold Schwarzenegger, Eshaan, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The reason
he
why
was pregnant in the film once, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
You to relate to that bit, innit? So basically, if you're naturally fit and you try to do a specific sport, the fact that you have got the skill set to do the basics of maybe stamina or maybe endurance, whatever it is, you can transfer that over. You just have to adapt what it is you're doing. It's similar with hosting events. I did club night hosting before I was a stand-up for a few years, about 3 years roughly. Where I just
like nightclubs.
Yeah, like Liquid and Envy and all those kind of clubs. I was one of the people on their books. Vittorio, Liquid and Envy was a nightclub that when it was open, it was one of those clubs that smelled like feet. You go in there and it'd be like 18 to 21-year-old students that they'd only drink like alcohol pops all night. It weren't.
There's a place in Belfast that distinctly smells of chocolate tequila.
It would be one of those places.
Yeah.
So I used to be one of the club night hosts for that, and I'd pump the crowd and for the DJ and so on. When I went into comedy, I did a bit of both in terms of stand up and also trying out MCing, because I just naturally drew to that. When it came to UKG Brunch, it was very similar to hosting a comedy show and also doing club night hosting, because we did games as well as amping up the crowd for a party. And the skills are transferable as long as you understand the crowd is different. You can't go in and say, all right, guys, sit down. It's a UK garage vibe right now, and I want you to sit down and relax because I'm going to tell you a joke. You can't do that. But there are elements of hosting, which is, the freestyling element, the jumping in and being able to pick up certain situations and just ride off that is transferable. And that's why, I guess, for me to go and do that, it was natural. Just mixing the two up, it became kind of natural.
Became quite easy for you. By the way, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, remember you can ask questions, so don't be shy. Aurie will be very good in terms of sharing his wisdom and experience. So when all this is over, hopefully when lockdown comes to an end, save any half-hour driving tests that you do in between. What's the thing? Is there a particular place you're going to be looking forward to going to the most to perform, or what's the thing you're looking forward to the most? No.
I think, all right, so I run a comedy night at Box Park at all the box parks, Wembley, Croydon and Shoreditch. And it's like an open mic night, and the rules are you just come down, try out material. People are there, they don't pay to come in, so they're not expecting you to give shit hot like 20s or whatsoever. They expect you to come in and just be like, try stuff out. Right. And sometimes you find gems in the material that you try there, whether it be you yourself or you watching other people do new material. I'm itching to go back to that, because as much as I like doing shows where there's a lot of people, or it's a 20 in a comedy club and you're going to go with your stiff 20, I love the idea of grafting and finding gems, just freestyling material and trying out new stuff. And I'm looking forward to that vibe, because in those environments where it's not always as easy to get the laughs, once you find your groove in that, which when you do is just the best feeling, I want to get back to that element. And then obviously afterwards to other stages. I kind of want to work off the cobwebs we all going to have
Yeah.
Those things will come out. You know what I mean?
I'm really worried about rust. What about you, Vittorio? Are you worried about being a bit rusty? when
I
you've
was
got on
talking to
stage?
somebody. I was talking to Josh Weller, who I think, Eshaan, you
Yeah.
know, Aurie, have you met
Yeah.
Josh Weller?
No, I haven't. No.
He's a newish comedian, but he's very good.
You're very funny.
We were talking about like he asked me today. We were talking, and he was like, "Can you remember all your bits?" And I was like, "Not really. Like, I would
Yeah.
definitely have to go back, like, listen to audio of a few sets, and like." Because I have some quite long stories as well. I know I can just see it happening where I'm in the middle of this long story and I just go, oh, where the fuck am
What's
I
the next
going?
bit
Like,
in it? Yeah.
what the fuck's happening? Like, how does this all piece together and how does this tie in with this thing? And just like, I'm worried about that, but I think it may be similar to you. I've done a lot of hosting. Like, I started MCing. My first ever gig was MCing to like
Okay.
200 people. It wasn't like, and then built from there. So I kind of back myself to. I think that doing a lot of hosting puts you in a position where you feel a bit more bulletproof on stage, where
Yeah.
anything can pop up and you can deal with it with a bit of crowd work, with a bit of riffing, with a bit of whatever. Feel a bit more comfortable with situations like that.
Mm.
Here's something I'm interested in from both your perspectives of people who've hosted a lot. You know, for those who are listening to the pod who aren't perhaps au fait with how stand-up works, because the skills between stand-up and hosting are so different, which do you prefer doing
Ooh.
of the
I
two?
would say, do you know what? Being candid, I prefer doing stand up, but I know I'm better at hosting.
Okay,
that's
why
good.
do you think that is? What's the
Because
difference?
I can bounce off the crowd very well, more so than I can do in I can bounce off the crowd very well when I'm hosting, more so than I can do when I'm doing my set. Because if you're trying to do your set and you get interruption from the crowd, you can work with that. You can probably find a whole new bit with that. But it feels like the freedom of that is a bit more locked because you know that you got a certain time period. You also know that you had a flow or a story that you wanted to tell with your 15, 20 or whatever long set that you're doing.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that you stick to that. Whereas the reason I like hosting is I tend to go on this without a plan, try out a couple of new bits, but after I do that, the plan is let me get from the crowd and let me bounce off the crowd. And because
Right.
I'm so comfortable with that, I know that that's a great lane for me. But I do find that I prefer doing just a straight stand-up set. One, because the set's done, I can sit down after and go over it and enjoy it. Enjoy some other people do material and also work on what I did in that 20 and go, all right, that worked, that didn't. Whereas when you're hosting, your whole thing is, all right, I tried this bit, I'm going to come off. I maybe look at, oh shit, I got to go back on again because now the next person's coming on.
Back on, yeah.
Yeah, that's mine.
What about you, Victoria?
What about you, V?
There's a weird thing, like the selfish part of me likes doing a set because I get to ride the wave of laughter, but when hosting, I feel like your job a lot of the time is to get to the point where you get that one big enough laugh and you go, okay, they're ready for the act to come on. Do you know what I mean? And you kind of, it feels more selfless, like you're there to serve the acts and like make it as easy as possible for the
Yeah.
acts. But when you're an act, it's more likely that like you're not working from a cold audience. They're teed up ready for you and you can just go bang, bang, bang. These are great jokes and kind of ride the wave a bit more. Whereas like sometimes I feel like when I'm hosting, I'll start bouncing off the crowd back and forward. And then even though there's no set time I'm supposed to be on, like you just feel obliged to go like, even though I could go further with this and have loads and loads of fun, I'm like,
Yeah.
no, the right thing to do is to bring the person on now. And I
Yeah.
have to be a bit more selfless with it. Whereas with a set, I'm just a bit like, no. Just like,
Yeah. I think that's the challenge, isn't it? Because when you're the host, you've got to find that balance between being entertaining, being funny, but also not being the funniest person there because you need the host, you need the acts to flourish. And that's where I slightly struggle. When I host, I'm often the funniest guy in the room.
Hold on. Quick question on that. Do you
Yeah.
find, well, two things. One, do
Yeah.
you find that when you host, if you are the funniest in the room, that when a comedian bombs, they blame you? They look at you and go, it's your fault because you sucked up all the laughter.
the act
happened.
blames you or the audience.
Yeah.
So the act,
Not all the act. The act
Yeah.
may go on and feel like,
I've had one act blame me for that.
I have. What do you guys think about? This is kind of related. If an act bombs, I feel like as the host, like if it's a real bomb, you kind of
Oh, you
have
can dig them out. Yeah, go for it.
this.
You got.
But some
Dig 'em
people
out.
don't like
Dig
that.
them out.
Some people
Dig,
don't like that.
dig. No, what? Listen, my thing is this, right? As a comedian, you know you bombed. If you don't know you bombed, then you're not being realistic as a comedy.
Yeah.
Go on
Yeah,
stage,
exactly.
if you didn't get that laugh, that's fine. Own it. Not every show is supposed to be 10 out of 10. You're
10,
going
yeah.
to die at some point.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're self-aware and you go, well, I bombed that time, and a host recognizes it and then highlights it, the host is kind of the midway between you and the audience.
Exactly.
Let that host play the part of the audience where they go on that stage and go, I know what you saw.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it, and then let's laugh. Whilst we've laughed it off, then you can also be respectful and go, but you know what? Show love to he came out here. It may not have been the best one, but he came out here for you and he did what he did. Show love to whoever the act is.
Yeah,
And if the act looks at that and goes, nah, you shouldn't have highlighted that I bombed. Bruv, you bombed. We all saw it.
Yeah, you can't leave it. You can't leave any elephants in the room. You can't leave it
Exactly.
unspoken.
We saw it. We all saw it. So come on.
I love it. I see some people really hate this, but I love if I'm bombing to hear a comedian laughing at the back of the room.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
I think
one
it's
of the most
beautiful.
enjoyable laughter.
I think it's beautiful because it's just them going, "We've all been there."
Yeah.
It's just
There's a comedian that put up I can even say his name. It's Jimmy James Jones. He put up a post about the times he's bombed, and the first episode was one he bombed at Box Park in Wembley, and he put it up on it. If you go on his socials, you'll see he got me and Darren Griffiths to add to the story by doing a video about it. And long story short, I was hosting. There was a woman who was being a bit rowdy. I was shutting her down, and it was fun, and the crowd loved it. But he wanted to get on stage. He was like, "Come on, man, let me just get on," because it was itchy. But I wasn't going to bring it on while the woman was being rowdy. When I heard him go from the back go, "Oh, hurry up, man." I was like, "What? Okay, all right." I said, I gave it another minute. I brought him on stage. He went on. He died 1,000 deaths. The guy died. My thing is, if you got the arrogance to say hurry up, you better be shit hot on that microphone.
You better smash it from the get-go, yeah.
Exactly. He died. You know the walk between the stage and then the green room?
Yeah.
He didn't bother to stop at the green room. The man walked from the stage to where the train station was. He didn't even say bye to anyone. He didn't shake hands. He didn't even speak to me about...
It's like Isaiah Thomas and the fucking Michael Jordan. That was the Detroit Pistons. Didn't shake hands, just walked straight off.
Just straight off.
Walked home. Just walked home. That was it.
That's
it was
funny.
hilarious.
That's funny.
You had a second question about the hosting. Do you remember or no?
Yeah, the second question is, do you feel that comedians look down upon you if you are somebody that is seen to do more MCing than like doing stand-up comedy?
Yeah,
I feel that's the case.
as if you can't just be both. People are like, oh, but you're like, are you trying to build up as like more of an MC? And I'm like, I'm a comedian. The maddest thing that happens to me all the time is like very frequently I'll MC and it'll go and the show will be really good, and someone in the audience will come up to me and be like, "Oh, you were really great. Would you ever consider doing stand-up?" And I'm like, what do you think just happened?
Yeah.
All the time. I hate that. I hate it. There's a part of me that sits like, and then you feel justified. Well, I do comedy. I did
there was jokes.
The umbrella of comedy.
There was jokes, but it's like a compliment in a way. It makes it seem you seem natural and you seem like you're not.
If you're fixing the bathroom, if you're doing the kitchen, you're still a plumber. Like,
exactly. You should do this as a job, man. You should try comedy. I think it's for you.
But that's the thing. But when comedians say, "Oh, are you working up to be MC?" That's kind of the same. That's the different side of the same coin, because you're kind of like, well, no, MCing is a part of the skill of being a comedian,
man. Exactly. And it's a money maker. Like, it's very serviceable in the industry.
Definitely, if you've got the skill for both.
Yeah, and if you can do it well, it's actually pretty easy money. If you just know that they need a good host, they'll pay me.
And it's great for like it's great for working on new stuff because you can go back to your notebook and go back up, go back to your notebook, go back up, and you're just chucking in new bits
Exactly.
all the time. So sweet,
I
man.
also think hosting and the spontaneous bits that come out of hosting works better online.
Yeah, people love crowd
videos.
work.
Yeah.
Online, people love crowd work. Like, I think there's something exciting about it, and you can post it without
Yeah.
burning material as well, which is nice.
Yeah, it's true. When it seems you, like you said, it almost seems natural that when they watch you, that it's almost like the interruption makes people go. Even when comics, like some of the bigger names, plan like audience plants, the interruption for them is like, oh shit, what is he gonna do now? And as soon
Yeah.
as they tackle it, it's like, this guy, well done. He did something that I didn't expect, and that he obviously didn't plan it. So I respect him more because
Man.
at that moment it was just random what he did.
And that respect doesn't extend to improv troops, does it?
No,
because improv troops almost.
there's too many
it almost
Hawaiian
feels like
shirts,
you're
man.
not- yeah, I don't know what it is with improv troops. I watch them and I enjoy them for the. I appreciate the skill it requires to be able to be an improv comedian or improv artist in general. But because I know that that's what you're trying to do, I guess I'm watching it going, all right, I'm here because you're going to make everything up. Whereas people who think an MC goes on to make everything up are probably few and far in between. They think that you're going on there just to introduce the act, and for some random reason you were able to make them laugh at the same time. I think it's with improv troops, I'm sitting there going, all right, I'm now going to watch you be in character the entire time. And if you do great stuff, do I even believe it was improv? It's such a shitty thing to put yourself up there.
I think like you do, like they practice, and like not all of it's on
and
the spot.
there's structural rules and whatever.
And they
Of
do
course,
whatever, and it's a skill, and it's cool, and we spoke about this on the last with Omid last week. I said that I watched the Netflix special, the Middleditch and Schwartz, the improv one. I watched the first one, and I went in being like, I'm gonna fucking hate this, but it I was just in the mood for something silly and just like kind of dumb and funny and just like, and it was good, and I laughed a lot, but it was like, I don't know, man. I have issues with improv groups. Like, I mean, I have issues with a lot of people that do improv. A lot of them are really fucking annoying. But, but I think when it's done well, and you can't really argue with it, I think.
Do you know, I had the same thing with, it wasn't with improv. It was exactly the same as you. I was in here actually, the office, and I think I was just chilling and doing some work on the laptop, but light work. And I said, we put something on Netflix in the background. And I saw Jeff Dunham, is one of his specials. Is it Dunham?
Yeah, Jeff Dunham, the puppet guy.
Ventriloquist guy, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I was watching, and I just thought, I don't even
Ahmed the terrorist.
Yeah, him. He's the one who does that one. And I was like, oh, I'm not even going to, right, let me just put this on. And I sat and watched it, and I was like, bloody brilliant.
Man, there's a reason they fucking
like,
sell tickets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because audiences, we even as comics, sometimes you want a break and you want something that's easy to digest, to be like, okay, that's funny, whatever. Like, I love Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell is absolutely mental. There's no reason for me to enjoy him, but he makes me laugh. Do you remember where your last gig was and how it went, Aurie?
This is how bad this is, because I mean, you lot said that we were going to talk about this, and I sat down for a while, and I have this thing where and between me and a few of my friends, when we're trying to answer a question, we can't remember the answer, but we could look it up. We say Google embargo, which means you have to remember it. You're not allowed to look up on Google. And I said, I'm not going to look in my calendar. Just go off your memory. What was your last gig?
Yeah.
I kid you not. I cannot, for the life of me, remember exactly which one was my last stand-up. I don't know if it was Box Park or if it was Vauxhall Comedy Club for stand-up. I can't remember if it's one of those two. But I know the last time I was on stage was UKG Brunch, and that was in Birmingham. But for stand-up, it is either Vauxhall or Box Park, one or two. And I'm purposely not looking at my calendar because I want to remember which one.
And do you reckon you smashed it?
Yeah. I was fine.
Yeah.
I was the MC at Vauxhall, and I did I think I emceed at the Box Park one as well, and it was yeah, that was absolutely fine. That was cool.
We've got one comment from Kay Kurd who said, Aurie took 45 minutes to bring you on stage in the early days.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
You know when all right, this is the problem. I had to at least like relax the crowd up, because when in the early days when Kay came on,
Here we go. Oh boy!
no, I'm joking. I'm joking. He's throwing shots at me, innit? I might as well throw
Yeah,
it back.
exactly. It's fair. I was looking forward to some spacey stuff.
I might, yeah. Sometimes you get in your comfort zone and you forget that it's not about you. I'll be honest. There were times that I had to learn to. That's why, and I got an Apple Watch now. It's just so it lets me know. All right, 18 minutes. You're supposed to do 20. Wrap it up now and come off at 20.
One of the last time I saw you hosting was when we were recording Kay's special.
Yes.
And you absolutely destroyed, and the whole audience were just hyped from minute
Thank
one.
you.
Last minute of K's. It was just such a great job. I don't know how you managed to do that. You kept them at the same level constantly.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. That was a fun gig.
Eldon,
you did well as well. Don't listen. You went on.
Yeah,
that
I
stage.
did. I know I did do really well, but it was also a case of me thinking, I don't know how much of this is me and how much of this is Aurie, because these guys are just laughing at everything. But fine.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll take it. It looked good for the camera. That's what was the most important thing.
Exactly.
So, talk to us then about your process in a nutshell. Like, you've been doing comedy for 10 years. How do you normally write and test material, and has that changed over time?
So I write it down. So I don't write it down. I type it now on my phone. Or if something comes to mind, I'll type down the premise, even if I develop it at that moment in time, so I can remember. So I don't forget what the premise is. So even if I do get that out of my mind, let's say I'm on my way to a family member's house and the joke comes in my head, but I haven't developed it. It's just the premise. I'll type it, and later on, when I am in a mood to look at what premises I've written down, I can go, oh, actually, I can develop this one, and then I try to develop it, or I might go, no, maybe this one may need to sit down and marinate a little bit. Sometimes I've got another joke that comes up, and that premise that I may have thought of before allows me to link to whatever the joke is, and then I start to go further down the line. It's more so like things come up in my head, or experiences that I have every day that anyone has. It's the little things that everyone goes through, and I go, that could be a good joke. And then I write down either the entire joke if I feel that it's developed at that moment, or write down a note to say, think about a joke where it's blah, blah, blah. And then I'll come back to it, add some more, try it out, take this away, add some more. It just depends on how developed the joke is or the idea is. But I try not to forget what the premise of each joke that I have that comes to mind is.
How long after writing the premise do you actually write something out? Because I have got some absolutely batshit crazy notes on my phone, which, I write down a good idea when I'm drunk, I'm high, or whatever it might be. Don't do drugs, kids. And I'll look back at it a couple of weeks later and be like, I have no idea what Quran Lama means.
Quran Lama? Tell me that's not one of the notes.
Yeah, Quran Lama. Like Quran and llama next to each other. Why have I written those two words next to each other?
But the reason you forget that is because you weren't the current Eshaan we're talking to. You was whatever, under the influence of whatever you was in. You got to add more to it. If you're gonna do that, you have to add more to it, so when you go back to it, you can remember.
Anytime I make a note of a premise, I force myself to write like 6 more lines than I want to.
Yeah. Okay,
Instead of just going through it, I'll go like, I remember just going, no, you won't, and just writing every single word that's in my head right then, just to make sure.
That's a great idea, because even if you do forget the premise, you start to read this thing, and even if it's like renewed now to your mind, it's like, all right, well, this seems good because of these 6 lines afterwards. Let me consider thinking about this more. So similar. I don't tend to forget if I have a premise, I don't tend to forget what it was if I've written down. Write a joke about when people jump in front of you, because that would trigger that feeling or that thought that had happened when I first wrote it down. So I don't tend to forget them. It may take a while before I finish the joke. It could be that week, or it could be a few years down the line.
Yeah.
That because I wasn't in the. I mean, there are jokes I've written which I feel would be funny, let's say about sex, but then I also know that I haven't.
I'm not having sex.
Dickhead. No, do you know what? It's not even about I'm not having sex. It's just there are times where the direction of my comedy wasn't. I just weren't the guy who was talking about sex on stage.
Yeah.
There are some comics that
Okay.
are so much in that lane that you just that anything they think about when it comes to sex, they can go into detail and depth. If I wasn't that person at the time, then until I'm developed with talking about sex, that I can go into detail where it's accurate and the audience can go, I appreciated that joke rather than you just using sex to be funny, then I might bench that until it comes to that time.
Thing is, what I've learned just from this is I definitely need to add more lines to my premises because I've got some absolutely fucking insane.
It happens sometimes I go, I'll remember what that means, and then I come back and go, there's no way. This doesn't make any sense.
Shall I go out on a limb and read some of these premises?
For sure.
Yeah, come on, try it. Go.
Oh my god.
I'll get mine up as well. I'll try and find the weirdest ones in my notes.
Do you know what? Do you know what? Let me do it too, actually. I've got some older ones that might just be sitting there that I've not even...
I think we've just discovered a new game. Right. Shall I do my first one?
Go ahead.
I've written, is it pedophilia if you say in 20 years I'm going to fuck that baby?
For
the sake of the companies that I'm attached to, I'm going to sit out this one. And I'm going to let Vittorio address this one. I neither can confirm or deny my opinion.
So, this is topical at the minute. There's a Celtic football player called Armstrong Okoflex, who's 18.
Sorry, wait, what? Armstrong Okoflex?
Okoflex, yeah.
Yeah, he's got the right name for this premise.
And and basically, since lockdown started and football was cancelled, he's been going on Instagram Live a lot, like fucking all of us have. And like people have been jumping on to chat to him, just fans and stuff. And it's been absolutely wild. Like guys have been getting their knobs out and stuff and just like all sorts of mad shit. But then there was one where it was just nice. It was like a little family and it was like a mum and she's like, oh, we're big fans. And then like the little daughter was there. And she was like 9 years old. And then they left the Instagram Live and it was just him. And he goes, oh, she's one of them that's going to be really paying when she's older. And everyone's like, oh, shit.
You can't.
Oh, shit.
What's wrong with... Where is the media training for these people?
Yeah, man. Like, why after people getting their dicks out, we're Celtic not just like, hey, no more Instagram Lives?
No, yeah. But to be fair, even Celtic couldn't have foreseen that one coming. Come on.
Yeah.
But like Vittorio
She's
said,
one of them ones that's going to be paying when she's...
you don't like. We all have had some dark thoughts. Like, I wonder how would I get away with murder if I killed this person, right? Yeah. But you don't verbalize it because it's one of those thoughts you shouldn't have, no matter how angry you feel. Now, if he felt like that, right? Maybe he needs to ask himself a few questions. But at that moment, you need to not speak. Just keep your mouth closed.
Keep it inside.
Wow. I will say, in his defense, though, she was quite no. In his defense, a lot of parents do make that happen where they're kind of like, she's going to grow up to be a looker. He's going to grow up to be a looker.
Uncles do it a lot. They'll be like, oh, she's going to be a heartbreaker, or she's going to be, but it's different.
But you know that there is a own difference where you might look at. So I've got like family members who are young, and I'm grow up, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to protect her because guys are gonna be after her. That's different. That's me going, I don't want no trouble because she is going to be a stunner when she's older. Yeah. And then there's this guy, this Armstrong brother, who goes, when she's older, she's paying.
Because pang is like a sexual word, isn't it?
It's like he used the word peng.
Peng. Why are we? What she might? If he said she's gorgeous when she's older,
that probably would have been fine.
Heartbreaker.
She's gonna be really beautiful when she's older. Yeah.
If he said that, but peng almost sounds like I'm interested.
Yeah.
Just leave that alone. Leave that alone. You feel me?
Any others? I've got more, but any others?
I've got.
Go.
Do you guys know what minesweeping is?
Yeah.
The game or is it something different?
It's like so it's when you're in a bar and you don't have any money, so you just like pick up unattended drinks and just drink them.
I never heard of that, but I know people that do that. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
it's some serious white people.
And
shit.
I've gotten I've gotten spiked from it before.
No shit, Sherlock.
But right, so here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Whoever spiked that drink wasn't trying to spike me. They were probably trying to spike some vulnerable woman.
Young woman.
Yeah.
So is minesweeping feminism?
Is my
Are you a liver? This is sick. That's a great premise.
you?
Ladies, I'm doing it for you. As long as I'm not in Manchester and there's a little Indonesian man running around, I'm safe. But the rest of
Yeah.
you,
I was so fucked up by the spikeage that at 3 a.m. I was in McDonald's, and number one, I thought the machine was broken. I thought it wasn't charging me, so I ordered like 20 Big Macs, and then I looked at my bank. I'd spent £100 in McDonald's when I looked the next day. And then also I thought I was doing a comedy gig in a McDonald's at 3 a.m. and was like, I was doing bits and people were like shouting at me, being like, shut the fuck up. And I thought they were hecklers. So I was like putting them down.
you know what it was?
No, it was like,
Fuck.
I lifted this drink and then just like blackout, man, threw up a lot.
Yeah,
Gee.
that's stop doing that. Please, 'cause that
I don't even drink anymore, so it's like whatever.
But also, I think, yeah, is minesweeping feminism is really funny.
There's something.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
something there. Definitely use that. That's a good one. That's got something there.
That's a good note that you've written.
I'm looking. Do you know what? Because my notes are on my phone. I'm not going to come off this and go to it, but
Yeah.
I've got my tablet and it syncs like my cloud notes rather than the ones that I put with an email. And there's only one here that I can see, and I did the dickhead thing, which is I put down the premise, and just like you, I've forgotten the rest. But this one is from 2017.
Right.
So, and literally the premise is about elements of when I went to going to private school, and that was it. That's all I did. Which in itself, I guess, if you look at me and the fact that I have a hat back on and I do stand-up comedy, the joke in me in that premise, I feel that's what it is. I just can't think what else.
So what's the you've written?
Going to private school. That's it.
Right. Okay.
And I think, and I look at it.
Did you go to private school?
I think, I don't know, if I just put a picture of myself underneath it, I think that's the punchline. That's all I can think of. There's nothing else to develop.
But did you go to private school?
I actually did go to private school.
Okay.
I'm saying. Yeah, it wasn't just going as in like, hey, what if you went to? I did go to one. I became a comedian. So
have you? Have you? But have you not spoken about that on stage, like that kind of juxtaposition?
This is the thing. I never have done. When I really think about it, I started when I was. My mum put in private school when I was 5. Like,
who's frozen?
and I boarded. I actually boarded at school, and I've never spoken about it on stage.
Which school did you go to?
I went to one in the secondary one I boarded in was Aldenham School in Hertfordshire.
Yeah, I know Aldenham.
Where did you go?
I went to Forest, which is in Snaresbrook.
Even Snaresbrook, just pretentious.
It is pretentious.
It's got a Toby Carvery though.
The funny thing about Snaresbrook, postcode was E17, which is obviously Walthamstow.
Yeah,
The letterhead said near Snaresbrook.
it would.
Yeah,
would.
back when Walthamstow was a shithole.
Yeah. For the quality of the school and the house prices, I would put near Snaresbrook as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So Aurie and I are both private school boys. How nice.
We don't really have private schools here.
No.
Like Belfast, there's like in the whole of Northern Ireland, I think there's maybe 2 or 3 fee-paying schools. Maybe I think 2 probably. But we do have like a grammar and second, like we have an 11+ still, like a transfer test.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's streamed in that way, and I always got annoyed. English people are like, I can't believe you stream your education into grammar and secondary, and I'm like, I can't believe you stream your education by how much fucking money you have. Like that seems way worse.
Did you pass your 11+?
Hey mate, come on.
All right.
Yeah, but you know that still's not an answer. We want to know what the answer is.
Yeah, mate. Went to grammar school.
Good.
Yeah,
Just
all
double
right,
check.
smashed it, mate.
I
Smashed
got credentials.
it. Yeah. So we kind of discussed it a bit there. Like for some reason, I've got a paedophilia joke on my phone, and this one's got a date rape joke in his phone. Are there any topics that are off limits for you, Aurie? What's your position on that? Are there things that you shouldn't joke about?
I believe as a whole, no topic is untouchable, but you have to have the skill set and ability to make it funny. You can't just be edgy for edgy reasons. Some people do that because they would like to be they look at people like Frankie Boyle. I think he's funny. I think he's edgy. I want to do that. So many people did that when Chappelle came out with his specials, and he was talking topics that so many people felt that you couldn't, purely because of the climate that we're in now. And that's understandable. But the difference between you and Chappelle is he is Chappelle and you're you. So you can't just go on and say what you think is funny or edgy just to be edgy. I think any topic is allowed to be discussed and is completely approachable as long as you make it funny, because that is what our job is. So
Isn't
me
the defense?
though,
Yeah, go on. You personally, sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, me personally though, because I don't feel myself I could make a joke about rape or paedophilia and it be either funny or it be anything that wouldn't necessarily have more of a backlash than it would do in appreciation, I would avoid those topics myself. One, because I know how sensitive they can be. Two, because I also myself don't find the topics funny, but I have, when I see like Chappelle make them into something that's funny, I do laugh and can appreciate how funny they are, but I'm not Chappelle, so I wouldn't go there.
But isn't the challenge to that at some point Dave Chappelle was also an amateur at that, right? So at some point he would have made a clumsy joke about whatever it might have been, and he needs to be clumsy in order to understand where the line is.
So I think the intent with Chappelle is, and I don't know his writing process completely. I've met him twice. Never asked him, how did you write that joke? I don't know for myself. Yeah. But what I will say is from what it seems when you speak to someone like him or to many comics, they're not trying to do it because someone else done it and they thought it would be cool for them. It's their lane. And because it's their lane, it's natural to them. So with him, if he tried to do it and it was clumsy at the beginning, okay. But people try to write jokes because Chappelle done it or Boyle done it, and it seems like it's a good thing to be edgy or to be on the line, then your intention is wrong. You're trying to be the next edgy person rather than naturally being the edgy you. And if you're not the edgy you, then it's going to come across not as authentic and be more offensive than authentically a joke that you were able to construct.
I think people get more offended by inauthenticity than they do by most other things. Like if you look at someone, my example of that is someone like Joey Diaz. Joey Diaz will say any racial slur in the book. He will speak about anything in kind of horrible ways, but it comes across so genuinely, authentically Joey Diaz that everyone goes, that's Joey Diaz. Whereas when you get someone, an example would be like the Shane Gillis thing with the Saturday Night Live thing, kind of like a skinny white guy, middle class, like doesn't seem to have gone through much in his life. When he says something offensive like a slur or whatever, it doesn't feel like it's part of his normal like vocabulary. It doesn't feel like how he grew up speaking. So you're like, he's trying to push buttons with that. Like he knows what he's doing with that, and it doesn't feel real.
Me and Vittorio spoke about this about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
When some people go to different areas and they believe that trying to be more like the area rather than who they are. So if I went to Belfast and tried to put on an Irish accent, which is not natural to me, then those who are there would look and go, firstly, we know you're not Irish. Secondly, the accent is pretty shit.
But I'll tell you what, I'll pay good money to see you try.
You pay good money to see me try because you'd want me to fail.
It's that thing, if you know comedians waiting in the background just to see a comedian die, I just feel like I'd enjoy it.
Do that because we want to fail. But the audience paid money to laugh. And if look, me, young London black boy, go to Belfast and try to be Irish, they're gonna look at me and go, "Shut up! You're not that. We want to see you be authentic." But if I go, and some comedians will think, well, it's so I can relate to them. No, they're not. People aren't stupid. Some people are ignorant because they choose to be, but they're not stupid. They know that there are some things within my culture that they may not even want to engage in, but they're more than willing to listen to me talk about my culture than me try to emulate an Irish accent or elements of Irish culture that I
if you came on and were like, Catholics are like this, Protestants are like this, they'd be like, first of all, what's the likelihood of you having a new take on that? Almost zero.
Exactly.
And it's like, and also just talk about your own stuff. We're kind of like, you're here because you're different, and that's good.
Yeah. So be authentic. Do you know what? People might learn something. You know, with comedy, you can sit. I could be myself and go to an audience that have never seen a black British Caribbean diaspora comedian, and they might go, he was funny because he was talking about things we all relate to, but it was from an angle I don't know, and that's what I enjoyed. Do that, but don't try and pretend to be something you're not. So that's, I think, even with offensive jokes, it's if you try to go to a point where I'm gonna force my edginess, some people look at you and go, "You're a pussy, because you're not that edgy. Stop being that guy. Shut up. You are." There are some comedians that like to be savage, and they are not savage in real life. And people will see through that.
I think, like, what you were saying about having to, like, earn it, and, like, you're not Chappelle. I think there's, like, you're spot on with the Chappelle and the Boyle impressions. I think another person that they're guilty by their fan base attempting to be like them is someone like Stuart Lee. The number of people who are like open mic comedians who get on and try and deconstruct the concept of stand-up comedy in their seventh gig, and you're like, look, you don't know all the rules yet to deconstruct them, and you're not skilled enough yet. I think, and it's not Stuart Lee's fault, and it's not Frankie Boyle's fault, because they're very good at that, and that's what they do. But it's those people going, I want to do what they do, and I'm going to deconstruct stand-up because I watch Stuart Lee and I know how to do that.
Exactly.
The authenticity thing that's something quite close to my heart, because I don't know, Aurie, now that I know that you went to private school, I feel like this is something you might relate to a bit more, which is that it's taken me, I'm now 6 years, to the point where I've accepted my authentic truth, which is that, I grew up in East London, but I had a really middle-class upbringing. I sound like this. When Asians hear me, they think I'm a white dude. Right? I don't know, a lot about hip-hop and stuff like that, but I know lots of people who do, and I'm good friends with them. It's taken me a long time to accept my authenticity. Isn't that a reason why maybe some people might think, okay, I need to be a different version of myself before I'm comfortable enough with myself on stage? Because as a comic, just getting comfortable on stage takes ages. But to get comfortable to the point where you're allowed to be yourself takes even longer. What do you think about, have you had to navigate that space, or have you always been quite comfortable in the spaces? Because you've done a lot of stuff like on the black comedy circuit as well.
So I know there are times where you go, especially like you mentioned, I've done a lot of comedy on the black comedy circuit. There are times that I've looked at myself as a comedian and gone, maybe if I try to be more, like I was saying about writing jokes about sex, for me, it's because I can do the jokes and I can talk about it, it doesn't interest me to. But whereas I may have felt at times with some shows, it may appeal to the lowest common denominator, but it would be the jokes that it would hit hard and get the largest reaction. I might try and write one, but then really quickly, a part of me goes, but that's not you. So don't, just pull back from it. And if something naturally works its way into that, then lead into it. I've kind of always been comfortable with elements of who I am. Like, I'm a massive geek. I mean, we've had conversations, or you've been around me to see that I love gaming. I love comics. I'm a movie buff, and I'm a massive Star Trek fan. Been that since I was like 13. Now, whereas it's probably typically not seen as cool, especially amongst the I don't know, urban youth of today, to be a massive Star Trek fan. Even when I was growing up, I never dropped that. I didn't feel like I needed to. I mean, look at this. This is a picture that I got. Someone drew this for me for a Christmas present. And
sick.
You see what I'm saying? But it's
Yeah.
me with a Star Trek emblem on my chest because they knew how much of a Star Trek fan I am. I found that the older you get, especially with things like Marvel being such a big thing, it's you can be yourself because there is going to be a market for you, one, and two, some of the things that you may feel that you were sidelined for have become a lot more fashionable the older you are, or you found much bigger market because you are now old enough to seek out that market. So I found that I didn't need to. You see how you describe yourself as somebody that your own culture may look at you and go, you don't sound like a typical Asian.
I get called a coconut a lot. It's just the most common thing I get.
So I still understand a lot of my culture, the same as you understand a lot of your culture. There'll be people that would look at me because of schooling that I went to, or maybe the way that I speak at times, will go, he is one of us, but he's a bit closer towards the British or the white side or whatsoever, because in their mind they might attribute education or articulation with whiteness, which is a negative stereotype. I made a firm decision to, if that's what some people hear, especially on the estate that I grew up on, if that's what you hear, then that's what you hear. But I'm not that person. I'm somebody that's very much in touch with my culture, and I'm not going to sit here and say being educated or being articulate is any less of a representation of my culture. That's almost like saying, well, me being black is supposed to be me being stupid. And I'm not going to accept that. So my mum was very much pivotal in pushing that onto me. So I guess when it came to going on stage, you still have to find who you are on stage. But it wasn't that I felt that I had to completely change my character and pretend to be something I wasn't to be accepted. It was, if I'm going to die on stage, or if I'm going to be funny on stage, I need to figure out how do I be comfortable with being funny and being myself and lean into that more. And you know what? It developed into me talking about things I did have interest in, certain types of music or dances or culture. And it just means that I can now go to other stages and not have to smarten myself up because I feel like I got to try and appeal to an all white or an all Asian audience. It's just be yourself, but be articulate, which I've learned from young, and they'll understand you. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's a long-winded answer. Sorry, but yeah, that's
no, it was a great answer. Vittorio, have you had to think about your authenticity? Because you've talked about when you go to Belfast, you don't necessarily always feel as welcome. But
I think I've always, from day one, because I come from like a music and an acting background, I have always had the opinion of stand-up that if I wanted to play a character, I would go act in something where I would play a character. So I'm here to be myself and talk like myself and say funny things in the way I say funny things on stage, and I don't need to be anything different. I worry sometimes about, I think there's a hard balance between, I really enjoy comedians and kind of personalities who aren't scared about people thinking they're stupid. I think some comedians are very keen for the audience to like know that they're like clever, for people to be like, oh yeah, he's actually very quick, and people really want them. Whereas someone like Bob Mortimer, even though he's a fiercely intelligent man, he doesn't care that everyone thinks that he's an idiot. But there's a difficulty with that coming from basically any comedian, any culture that isn't white English, because there's an assumption in the white English kind of like colonial mindset almost to be like, oh, of course, like it just kind of plays up to what they almost expect of you. And it's that balance between, I want to be able to be silly and stupid on stage, but I don't want you to think that every Irish person is that. I want you to know that I'm doing it because it's what I want to do. And like, it's hard. Like I heard about Al Murray apparently had to put a bit into his like working class character where he recited a full chunk of Shakespeare just to subconsciously be like, I know what I'm saying here. Yeah. Like I am in charge of what's happening here. I am not the stereotype of a working class person that I am portraying. I'm portraying this to highlight the stereotypes that exist. I don't want to confirm them. And that's a hard balance to strike, but sometimes I kind of think it's not my job. I should just do what I think is the funniest thing to do at that time.
I think for me a real sign of progress will be when a black or Asian comedian, or even Irish for that matter, is able to go on stage, not talk about anything that might be deemed political, and maybe just have some props and put some cream on his face and everyone laughs. Do you know what I mean?
Just be
I feel like
allowed
that-
to be silly.
Yeah, just allowed
Yeah.
to, because if you think about it, like when I think about it, particularly in the Asian space, and I'm including East Asian people in this too, they all have to be a bit clever.
Yeah, for them to, for mainstream audience to go, yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, I'll listen to
Yeah.
him. Just be a bit clever.
Yeah, it's the opposite with Irish people. It's like, it's almost like, oh, he's actually quite clever. It's like, what
Yeah.
the fuck do you mean actually? Fucking Yeats is from Ireland. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you've got to either say something clever or say something important about your community. That's when people will listen to you. Yeah, it's interesting for me. Right, we've been chatting for like an hour and a half or hour and 10 minutes or whatever it is.
What? It's 27 minutes past 8. We've been talking for 55 minutes.
Oh, do you know what it is?
Wow, Eshaan doesn't want to talk to us.
No, do you know what it is?
Whoa, is that the time? Oh my God.
It's my fucking
Zoom.
birthday and I'm not that keen to get out of here. There is a Thai food takeaway. There's a Thai red curry waiting for me downstairs and I'm still here,
Do
okay?
you know what it is? It's the time of Zoom. That's what I saw.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
That's
Sorry
okay.
about that. Sorry about that. So what have you been doing during lockdown, and how have you kept that comedy brain of yours ticking over? Or have you just accepted defeat and said, for the time being, it's going to have to take a back burner?
So luckily, I get to. So every Monday, I've got my radio show on BBC Radio London.
Which I love coming to troll every so often.
I've noticed. Yeah, thanks, Eshaan. Thank you very much. Hey, do you know what I do? I put like the live up for the first half an hour on Instagram, so I can just say, "Oh, I'm on the radio. You don't want to jump on? You can do. This is what we're going to talk about," and then get the topics going. And he'll jump in the comments and go, "Excuse me, are you not supposed to be working right now? Come off your Instagram." Before I start contacting one of the managers at BBC to get you. He just does that, right? You fucking troll, you know. But I've been doing that every Monday. And also covering a couple of shows as well because of what's going on. Some people are not in at the station because they might be isolating, or they may be looking after family members who are elder and they want to isolate with them instead of coming out and risking anything. So that's a good muscle to stretch. That's a good way to stretch the vocal muscle. But then also I decided to do, when lockdown in, a daily podcast. It was basically I turned my podcast, No Escaping This, into a daily one. It's normally a weekly one. When I say weekly, before I was a bit complacent. I was so busy with other things I couldn't get to do it all the time. Yeah. But it's weekly, and I made it into a daily one. Built up my home studio to be a live streaming studio as well, so I could do live streaming content on like what we're doing now. And that became a passion project. But then I used that passion project to again keep the muscle stretched. So daily podcast for like 2 months. It was not easy. It was tiring to do that every day. Like even though they're like 15-minute episodes, to think of things to do for 50 minutes every day, to record, edit, post up, it got tiring. I was happy that people were responding to it, but that's how I was kind of keeping the I guess the freestyling MCing element there. And also UKG brunch, we were doing live streams of our brunches where we would have live DJs playing. I play games on there as well, and we'd hand out prizes by posting it out to people. So I kept a line of communication open with people that wanted to watch me do comedy by live streaming, and also writing things that I would like to do when I come out of lockdown. But again, as much as it's still keeping your mind active during lockdown, it just doesn't beat stage. So it's about 30% of the fulfillment of going out touring, going to different parts of the country to do stage, but it's still better than nothing. That's kind of how I've been getting through, with kind of supplementing the fact that we're not on stage for now. What about you, Vittorio? What about you as well, Eshaan?
We've got this twice a week, and then I do a solo podcast every Monday, and I have a podcast with a guest every Friday. And then the old Sunday roast has been fun every Sunday, just being mean to people, and it's good crack, man. I think like I've noticed, because roast jokes are like a really specific skill set. I think that certain people can do. Like, and when you do them well, they're really good, but you can see them being done badly. And today, like, because I've been doing on Facebook, I've been doing like a birthday roast, so I tag everyone whose birthday it is every day, and go like this post if you want a birthday roast, because I don't want to just be mean to people out of the blue. Like, you have to consent to the roast. And I'm doing that, and I think I've gotten to the point, man. Like, I'm just like, yo, put me in a writing room for a roast battle or something, because I am doing this every day, like 5 roast jokes a day, and then Sunday roast is like sometimes 50, 60 roast jokes I have to write in a day for just people's like Instagram pictures and just like firing through them, and it's like, it's been cool, man. That's kept like my joke writing on top of it, and then I'm like, sometimes for the podcast I'm taking a premise and like doing a little rant on it or whatever, but my podcast kind of isn't like a comedy podcast necessarily. Like, it's funny at points, but it's more kind of just like chatting about stuff, which has been nice. But I feel like I've kept myself busy. I think I've been good in terms of just like not letting anything dip, just keeping stuff going out, and I'm posting a video every week as well. But fucking, it is hard to be inspired by 4 walls.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Flipping it. That's the tough thing, isn't it? I've been doing podcasts as well, doing this twice a week with Vittorio, which has been great. Podcast with Fiverr, which is leading to more stuff. I'm going to release my 2018 show, Profit Like It's Hot, at the end of next month. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm a tiny bit worried about it because it's going to go to a bigger audience, and I've got the Quran on stage. You know, it's fine in Edinburgh, but so let's see. What
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah, get some. So yeah, no, I've been keeping busy. So it's good, man. It's good, and it's all good fun. Well. Good time to end the pod, I think.
Yes. Good work, team.
Aurie,
where can people find you?
So all my social media is at Aurie Styla, AURIESTYLA. I finished revamping my website. If you want to go check that, styla.co.uk. Keeping this podcast is now every week, but the whole back catalogue of the isolation files is all on there as well. So just type in my name on Spotify, Deezer, Apple Podcasts, all of those different platforms. So many of them you can go to, I guess, now. Putting out, and just on my pages, I just put out a lot of content, and I do game shows where I give away like bottles of Bel Air and stuff. So if you want to jump in, you follow my Facebook. I do those once a week, normally on a Tuesday, but I've had to shift things around. So I think it will go back to Tuesday next week. I think it might be Thursday, just tomorrow, isn't it? So not tomorrow, it's Tuesday today.
Yeah.
So Thursday this week, it'll go back to Tuesday next week. So yeah, that's what I'm up to for now. Just
great, man. Guys, make sure you follow Aurie Styla. He's absolutely brilliant. He's one of the nicest blokes in the game as well. And it's been a pleasure getting to know him over the last couple of years. And see all this stuff. He'll definitely keep you entertained.
And if you're on Apple Podcasts, if you're new to our podcast, hit subscribe. If you're on the YouTube channel, hit subscribe, like the thing. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever capabilities you have to review anything. Spread the word every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30, doing bits live. Anything else, Eshaan, or can we kill it?
We can kill it. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.